Of the organization.
People can think you're flipping them off your middle fingers, I'm just saying.
What we were doing.
The reason we brought him in, he was young, strong, smart, and he was a vendor.
Rob smart. You said smart. Ding me for cussing, but the dogs didn't know whether to shit or go blind.
Yeah.
I still don't know everything. How in the fuck
You have to edit that out. Yeah, edit that out.
can you master cats, apes, all these other be
why
an
isn't
expert
he
in all these
asking
other
you to train
things?
his monkey? And I talked to a good friend of mine, Frank Phillips, who's a great IGP trainer. I don't know if you know him, but I said something about...
I thought we were going to call it Schutzen and not...
Oh, Schutzen!
When the dog's looking at you like you have a dick growing out of your forehead.
Hey, we need help over here because we need to get this program. Well, I don't want to play with that. That seems retarded.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
We can use that word now.
All right, so it's good to get you guys together. So you got you three guys pretty much stood up the SOCOM dog unit, right? You're gonna...
Well, no, I'm not going to say all three of us stood it up, but all three of us, we were involved. I was involved in the very beginning, obviously. I brought Steve in, and then when we started to do a lot of expansion, we figured making relationships with vendors, because we were going all over the world, and we ended up coming to Adlerhorst, and it was my idea. I remember sitting in an office with a group of guys saying, let's hire Mike. Mm-hmm. Let's hire Mike Reaver, and let's bring Mike in. So we had a course that we were running for the SAS, and we needed extra people, so we contracted Mike and brought him in. Mm-hmm. And
so Mike was the first guy you hired?
No.
Okay.
No, Mike was just a trainer that we brought him in because we were buying dogs from Adlerhorst.
Okay.
And we basically looked down the road and said, let's solidify a relationship.
Right.
And keep it long term. So let's not go behind Dave's back, but
Mm-hmm.
Let's not steal him from Adlerhorst. But we kind of sort of did. We took him, and it was it was a win-win for everybody, I think. And that's when we brought Mike in as a guest trainer, because we were running a course, and we all had the same ideas, fundamentally about how we wanted to train good, hard, stable dogs, mm-hmm. and he fit right in.
So were you buying the dogs first? Like, give me a little genesis of that first. Here, you take it.
Well, the way I remember it is, they came to us. The first time you guys came, it's funny, and I think maybe we touched on it last time when I was on your show, but got a phone call about the Army. Some people from the Army, they want to buy some dogs. So I thought, Fort Irwin, it's a family over there, and they want to look at a house dog. They're going to come on a Saturday, and I'm going to be here waiting for them to show them some dogs. And then I remember I got a text message. Was it a text message? Like, hey, we're lost.
Probably.
It was MapQuest, whatever. Right. And so I met you guys like at the intersection of Stater Brothers, like follow me, but it was like this SUV, and there was all these dudes, and there was three people: Shanon, Steve, and
Whit.
Was it Ray?
Ray.
Yeah.
Ray. They get out of the parking lot. I'm like, this isn't a family from Fort Irwin, and they came up, and we talked about Steve, fit guy, Shanon, fit guy, Ray, a guy, and sorry, but he had cool pants.
In Ray's defense, he was running an O course, and he was spidering across a rope, probably 15 or 20 feet off the ground, and he fell. And he fell and separated his shoulder and separated his ribs and got banged up. So we broke him, but he was one of our direct support dog guys, and we kept him because we liked him, and he was a good dog person and very well organized. So we kept him around. It was good for a laugh or two.
But just in that first interaction, there was very little information on what they're actually doing with the dogs, but you have an idea of where they're coming from. And as the relationship grew over the next couple of months, we had a better idea. And I think went to North Carolina for like one day.
Yeah.
And you showed us a lot more of what you're doing, and it was nothing I've ever seen before. The way they were employing the dogs or deploying the dogs, no one was doing any of that. It was...
What was it? What weren't they doing?
Well, it's different than any way if you're going to do a building search to look for a hidden suspect. Mm-hmm. No one was doing it the way they were doing it. It was pretty dynamic, and I think I know I saw it, and I go, I didn't know dogs could be utilized in that fashion.
Oh, wow.
And over the year, maybe 2 years, you're seeing more and more. They were going to Europe with us, looking at dogs. And Steve came over for like 7 weeks. It was an instructor course that he was.
Here at Admirals.
Yeah, you're going to assist with a patrol course, and it was professional development. Steve didn't need it, so Steve and I spent most of our time goofing
Driving
off.
around,
Yeah.
going to gas stations, buying Lickies and Chewies,
Yeah.
and sweet drinks.
Yeah, you paid for a lot of
smoking
lunches,
cigarettes, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
all a paid vacation.
But in that trip, I said to Steve, like, it'd be really cool to go back to North Carolina and work over there. So he set it up. He's like, yeah. He called over there, and that's what between him and Shanon, they made it possible for me to go over there for a few months and help out with a basic handler class. And then I think it was like 2 to 3 years later than when I came over full time. Yeah. But really, it was very, very interesting that with that kennel, the amount of trainers they had and the stuff they were being asked to do with the dogs, like it was pretty impressive, And at that time, that was the only organization doing that to that standard, I think.
But talk about that. Like, talk about that standard, the difference between that.
When we met Mike, to me, life ebbs and flows. The high point of the organization,
People are
and
going to think you're flipping them off your middle fingers, I'll just say.
What we were doing, between that's the penalty belt. Exactly. But the years 2004 to 2015 were the zenith, and then the program kind of descended a little bit. That's life, right?
Right, but talk about the difference between, because I think that's what everybody who's watching wants to know. Like, what's the difference between a Lackland Air Force-based dog that goes into the military, which they're seeing as military dogs, and a SOCOM
The big difference, high-powered dogs working in concert with high-powered, free-flowing human beings.
Okay.
That was the difference. That's what we did.
Intense, powerful dogs.
Tough dogs, commando dogs, working in concert, off leash as a team member with high drive humans, and moving at rapid speed, high intensity. And that's, Shanon, Mike, and I, we all developed that young program and came up, scratched our heads, figured it out, how to make it work.
Right.
And we came up with these techniques.
Okay. And so, so the difference too is Lackland is breeding dogs, and deploying all the dogs they're breeding. Mm-hmm. You guys weren't doing that. You guys were searching out specific dogs for specific purposes, which Mike would then get you guys.
Right. We were, and Dave Reaver, Mike's dad, a legend in the program, got us the dogs. That relationship was a gold mine for us. Mm-hmm. And then a bonus was getting Mike to come to the unit. So Mike was a trainer that made it there on his own merit, and a lot of some of the other trainers were kind of buddied into the program, but Mike made it in on his bona fides. So, in working together, having fun, we developed some awesome tactics that people thought would be impossible.
Right.
What I remember is a foreign organization came to the unit to watch us do a technique that we told them they were doing, and they said impossible. And we took them to a shoot house, put them up on the platform to watch what our dogs are doing, and they said, "My God."
What was that? What was it? What were you doing?
Working in concert with the humans. It was how would you describe it, Shannon?
Yeah, you split it.
How would I describe it? As free flow CQB with a dog.
Close quarter combat is CQB.
Yeah. So I think that was the whole point of us having a canine program, was to be able to use a dog in direct action.
Okay.
And to send the dog in first if needs be, or to have a canine with a gun toter with another operator, and to be able to use the dog in that fashion. And from some of the other stuff that we've done, that just wasn't being done anywhere. I couldn't find. We searched high and low for some of the better guys that were out there, what we thought was a better guy who could help us. Because we really, in the old days, we're still trying to figure this out, and bringing guys in like Mike, and honestly, the reason we brought him in, he was young, strong, smart, and he was a vendor.
Wrong, smart. You said smart.
Okay, but I mean, he was part. He was.
I can do things.
Mike is the Fredo of our little dog program back then. But one thing that I missed, we're all, the four of us are friends. We like to have fun. Fun was the key word to what we were doing. It was never work. And I mean, I remember, we'd be training dogs, and then on a rainy day, Shannon and Mike and I would sneak off the compound and go to a movie, and then sneak back into the compound at 3 o'clock, and all right, see you at work tomorrow. But we had a lot of fun.
I cannot confirm nor deny that ever took place, and had that did take place, I again could not ever confirm nor deny that actually happened. But but the idea of this program was you were at the ground. Hey, you're not going any special ops. You had this idea, or you were brought in to make this idea to create this program that was never there before. Correct. Right. Yeah, I was part. I'm proud to say that. I'm actually getting used to saying it. I'm a plank holder. I was the third guy, and from a ground level pre 9/11. We had this idea of what we thought, myself, a guy named Alan Miller, Pat McCauley, what we thought it should look like, and we had no idea how to get it to that point. Right. And that's when we just started combing the basically the world, really looking for TTPs and looking for people who were doing something, or who we thought that they were doing anything like we wanted. And we, I ran into Steve. I trained with him before at Von Lick, and then we end up buying. I think Stoops and I were sitting around. Hey, let's go to Adlerhorst. Let's go to California and start buying some dogs, because these dogs that we were just rifling through so many dogs, and that how that evolution was going was these big mean dogs, and then they're not getting so big and so mean, they're getting faster and they're getting more stable, and it's going down, and we needed more, and to be selfish, let's go to Adlerhorst and let's see what they can do for us. And we liked Dave. We, started to develop a relationship. The time where y'all came to the kennel that one day, we did. They dropped a bunch of dogs off. It was funny. Your dad was just putting you to work. Yeah,
Louis. Yeah.
And remember that dog one of the dogs got loose and was running. It's like, Mike, go get the dog. He's just running all over the place. But we were just. To have a vendor come to us and to do what we were asking, we're not buying hundreds of dogs a year. Right. You're not making money off of us. So we're really specific and selective in what we're looking for. So I think we could be a big pain to a vendor. And I mean, we saw the value in having these guys and having Mike on speed dial. And and like I said, we had talked about this. Let's bring Mike in here. And when Steve called over, and it's like, look, he's ready to come. It's like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Right. Let's get him in.
Yeah, and the whole recruiting pitch for where we work, when Shannon hired me and when he hired Mike, it was, you will go to war, you will go to combat, You will go on target. And that was a selling point for us because Mike is prior military. I was, and like patriotic fervor. Like, what? What?
I'm sorry, we're talking about the Marine Corps again?
What? Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps. But that was a selling point. And then when Mike got there, we were training forward. So many units that have the dogs. The three guys sitting here, we stood up those units to include FBI, HRT, our British counterparts, several European counterparts. We would have them there, and it was fantastic back then. There was so much work to do, meaningful work that we were doing. We were losing dogs. We were losing multiple dogs in combat. We were having to produce the product. And one key point, Adler Horse was very important to us, but I would be remiss in not mentioning Ken Licklider. He's been on your show, Ken.
Yep.
Ken Licklider, Dave Reaver played huge parts in Special Operations K9. And
would you say those two guys pretty much are police, military,
Ken
K9?
Licklider, Dave Reaver.
They're it.
They're it. Not a lot of people can take the credit, although people are out there now,
Well, we should
taking
talk
credit.
about that too.
But yeah, those two guys. But yeah, a lot of great work, a lot of red meat.
But so for Mike, the question then is, when you start getting these calls, like these dogs are different, the program's different, how do you start selecting dogs for something that's never really been done before?
Well, we're not really selecting them. We went over and we're going to go to Europe to go look for police dogs.
Right.
And pretty much every trip, a trainer from the unit would tag along, and at the end of the trip, you go, "Hey, you've seen all the dogs. Which one, which two, which three do you want to take back to their organization?" And it's up to them. And my opinion, every dog that was there, and I'm thinking the ones that succeeded and the ones that were good enough, the ones that didn't succeed. If it was a good dog, it was just a good dog. I do the basic handler classes out here. And every class, there might be 2 or 3 dogs where I'm looking, I'm like, man, that would have been a good dog,
Exceptional, right?
And it for me, I can't look at a dog when I'm testing it and go, this is a police dog. This is a commando dog. When I'm testing a dog, I go, I like the dog. I'm going to buy him.
Yep, pass or fail.
Pass or fail. I don't know what this dog's going to do until I start some form of training. So it could be week 3 of the training, and I go, "Oh, you're not a police dog."
Right.
So it's they were just good dogs that everyone wants.
So let's talk about their background, because I think that's what a lot of people always ask. They go, what makes these dogs? Because they're being sold by somebody in Europe. Somebody had them for a while. Somebody trained them. Somebody loved them. Somebody lived with them, fed them, and cared for them. And now they're selling this dog off. Is it too much dog for that person? Is it not enough dog for that person?
Well, no, I think you could be in a sport club in Europe, and it's just like any other endeavor that you try to do. I think a he has his puppy, he's raising it, he's going 3 times a week to the club, and I think for a lot of times life happens, the divorce. Sickness, whatever I'm told by the guy that I'm buying the dog from, it's like, hey, how come this dog, it didn't get titled? The dog has a foundation, it understands obedience, and it does great bite work. The guy, he got cancer or he got divorced. And it's just like you sign up for jiu-jitsu, boom, you're going, and then life happens and then people stop. They sign up to go to the gym.
Right.
They're doing it for 8 months and then they stop. Or they do it for the rest of their lives, who knows? Or they titled the dog, IPO, KMPV, whatever. They like to do the whole process over again, so that takes a new puppy. Europe, backyards aren't exactly huge. You're not going to have 3 dogs running around your backyard. You title 2 of them, there's your new project. You got to get rid of 1 dog. And they sell it to someone over there. I go over, I buy it from someone else, or the individual, if they looked us up. But they did their sport with that dog, and for some reason they're done.
Okay.
And
that dog would then go into being a police dog, a personal protection home dog, or a commando dog.
Yeah. Whoever ends up with the dog, or it fails over here in California, and I got to figure out what to do with it.
Right. And that happens too.
And
Yeah.
I always say that even for the commando dogs, I wanted the same dog for the commandos that I wanted as a police dog, and we've been down that on the other
Yeah,
talks
we
and
talked a lot
requirements of
about
the
that.
dogs, but just a good dog, an open dog, nothing special other than being a good dog.
Mm-hmm. But don't those dogs need to be tougher or stronger or more withstanding of pressure than the average pet sport?
Well, I think in a perfect world that if there was that delineation between them, like, oh, he's a real strong dog, or oh, he's not a real strong dog. At the end of the day, we want the good dog, and we're going to have to train the lad. So we're going to have to develop, and that's really what it boils down to. When we got better acquainted with the Reavers and with Adler Horse and even with Kenny, our end state would be to pick up a phone and to call them and say, hey, you're on a buy trip, we can't make it, pick us out some dogs, and us having the ability to trust them because they know what we're looking for.
Right.
And that was the end of the road for us. That's perfect. That we may not be able to send somebody on a buy trip because in those days we were extremely busy.
But you'd also send dogs back, so they'd bring you a dog, and that
Absolutely.
might not work out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to be able to have that relationship is if Mike knows, okay, we're going to send the dog back. He knows it's a good enough dog that
resell
he's
it.
going to be able to do something with it and give
Right.
it to a police department. That was the perfect relationship that we were looking for.
So if you were looking for 3 qualities in the dog that you could just bounce off that, or 2 qualities or 4, whatever, what would be the top things you'd look for? You see the dog, what is it I'm looking for in that dog? Or maybe that's a question for Mike, or I don't know.
Well, for us, courage, stable.
Openness.
Yeah, an open book.
Yeah.
I think we probably let a lot of dogs. Well, we didn't probably. We let a lot of dogs go because we didn't know what we were looking for. We didn't train it enough. We probably could have put more time into it, but we had the ability to not have to do that.
Right.
And because we had that ability, and because of those relationships, it was like, okay, I'll take it back, and we'll get another one. I mean, they came to North Carolina, stood right where we are, and Dave. I'm a patriot. I'm going to do this. I'm going to help you out however I can.
Sure.
I mean, I told them we're going to ask a lot of you. We're going to ask a lot of you, and at the end of the day, hey, they're sending us a dog. We know it's probably going to be something that we're going to be able to work with.
Yep.
One important thing was the leadership that we had at the time when all of us got there. When Shanon and Mike and I were there, our leadership was like Al Davis with the Oakland Raiders. Just win, baby. We didn't have rules. We weren't standardizing anything. It was just go do it. We don't care how you do it.
Yep.
Do it. So we had that kind of freedom. And George Patton, the general, said that when the shooting starts, send me the sons of bitches. So we had a shooting war going on
Yeah.
and we had no bullshit in our leadership. So when the war started slowing down, idle minds are the devil's playground.
Yeah.
When towards the end of my career, the leadership started changing, and pettiness came into it, and that was kind of a shame.
That.
Yeah,
we talked about that
yeah,
as friends. Yeah,
But
we had
in
a lot of
that era, what I think the golden era between 2004 2015, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And
Did you see a difference in the spirit of the soldiers, of the operators during that time? Were they
No.
different then?
the operators will always be awesome. That organization will be awesome. I'm just speaking of the leadership of the dog program.
Yeah.
Early on, it was what you call franchise players leading it, and these were the Al Davises. Like they're just get it done.
Yeah.
And then
So what changed? What changed when the shit started hitting the fan? The proverbial.
you want to take that or? Yeah.
Just from my own observations, when some of those theaters were, the horizon was closing on them. When you think about Afghanistan, everyone kind of saw that was going to slow down. There was almost an attitude, and I think the number of trainers, it had grown. The number of personnel at the kennel, there was an attitude of like, how do we justify
Right.
our positions here?
Yeah.
And I'm in a good position because as soon as I'm not needed, I'm going back to
got a
Ad
gig,
Horse.
yeah.
So it's easy for me. But I think anyone that's working there whatsoever, if they're not needed, if you feel you're not needed, if whatever you provide, they don't need anymore, you leave. Everyone should be ready to just go ahead and leave.
Right.
And but at the kennel, it was kind of, hey, how do we justify our position? Well, can we get the dogs to do this? And it was totally opposite of what they were using the dogs for historically. And I remember hearing that and going, well, what we're doing with the dogs is still relevant.
Right.
They're always going to need that capability. It's very, very important. And it shouldn't be one of those things where like even a caveman could do that now. No, there's still a lot of thought and training that goes into it. So that left a pretty bad taste in my mouth when I heard that. And you could just kind of see what's going to happen. So as soon as I started seeing that, you could tell that, the people are going to start pulling things out of there.
So they're trying to make their job more important by adding things that they could do to it. Which was
You
irrelevant.
need me here
Right.
because I could provide you this right here. And it was capabilities that nobody's asking for.
Right.
Going back to the type of dogs, there was one funny story about how people would judge the dogs. Hey, do we need this dog? Is it good enough for here? There was a brand new dog, a good-looking malinois. I forget his name, but he was a cool dog and kind of big. But it was I knew after the next deployment, I would get a new handler and he would need a new dog. And so I took this dog out of the kennel, took some guys with me. We went down to a shoot house, and we just did some bite work with him. And it was a cool dog. He bit great. Just came over from Europe, and whether it was jet lag or whatever, or he was a new dog, but he was performing like a boss. Mm-hmm. And I go, hey, I like this dog. When we get back from this deployment, I'd like that to be our new dog. And several weeks later, I'm overseas and I get an email saying, hey, we're going to fire this dog. And what they did is they took the dog to the same exact shoot house and they're doing stuff with toys with him, play drive stuff, not bite work. And all the dog was doing was running around looking for a bite. It was probably 2 weeks later. And he doesn't have the desired drives to eventually do any kind of detection. And I went, no. I just did a bunch of bite work. He's seeing it for what it is. He doesn't want to play with your stupid ball. He wants to go do bite work. And they fired him. And that was kind of like, hey, everyone there should know, I just gave you the little piece of information that there's context to that building where you're trying to do play drive stuff. The dog has play drive. Just do it somewhere else, and I'm sure the dog's gonna, you're gonna see what you want. But it was people were making those knee-jerk reactions to dogs. Sometimes dogs, you put them in a helicopter and they're meek. They don't like being in there.
Sure.
Well, let's fire. Well, what happens when he gets off the helicopter? Can he do his job? Right. I'd rather have a dog that's laying on the ground going, I hate this. I get on an airplane.
Yeah,
I hate it.
I do too. Yeah, I get it.
But will you do your job when you get off the airplane? And you can see dogs getting fired for those reasons a little too fast, too soon.
That was later on in the administration as it evolved. You're saying?
No.
That was just a random one.
But it's kind of like the minds that were making those decisions. They weren't really looking too deep into. They were overthinking stuff a little bit.
So one thing I always see is in my mind, I've got a clear differentiation between these are police dog trainers and these are sport dog trainers. And I think a sport dog trainer can get a dog to a certain place, and a guy like you or the three of you could say, I'd like to take this dog and I'd like to work him to becoming who I want him to be. I want to train the lad, like you guys always say, right? Do you see a problem, or do you guys see a problem with a lot of sport dog trainers who are trying to step into this game and saying, you know what, I'm going to show you a good solid verbal out. I'm going to show you how to build more drive with a ball or with a tug. I'm going to do this. And there's a lot of really good sport dog trainers. My question is, and I'm a fan of both, so I'm asking you honestly, is there a problem? Is there a conflict when people who are sport dog trainers are trying to step into your realm and saying, well, there's a better way to do it without having been to war?
Well, I have a lot of friends that are in the sport. You know that we have huge respect for the sport. I think all of us do. But it's a little bit different than the sport world.
But be honest about that, because I think this is life and death stuff we're talking about, right? We're talking about a lot of people saying, oh, well, the dog needs to have a clean verbal out, or this or that, whatever.
The first time you and I met, we talked. I said that our sport, the commando dog sport, has 3 events: run in the field, locate, dominate; run in the building, locate, dominate; maybe run to a car, locate, dominate. That's it. And don't overcomplicate it. And clever people make complicated things seem easy. Unclever people make easy stuff complicated. The 3 of us, we had fun. We didn't overcomplicate. It was complicated stuff, but we were clever enough that it seemed very uncomplicated.
But do you think, I just want to keep drilling this one point home. I think, and I don't know who wants to answer this, maybe Mike is most, because you deal with it all the time. The sports are really important, right? They're giving you the material, they're giving you the dogs. But can it be safe? Can it be a good idea to take these dogs that are now graduated from the sport or graduated into your work?
But I think it's this whole industry is based off of the sport.
100%. I agree.
You know,
1,000%.
without the European working dog sports, this wouldn't be what it is. Not Adler Horse, but the whole industry. I think, you know, all around. But when and for example, like you look at some of the methods they're using to get the cleanliness out of dogs in the sports. I went to a KBV fun trial last year. It's not a trial for record, but people are going through the motions. The stage is set. It looks just like a trial. They're preparing for a trial. Sure. And it was the first time I've seen this at a KBV club. But, you know, the dog bites the decoy. Handler tells the dog to let go. The dog comes around, guards from the rear, bark, bark, bark. And for a couple dogs there, the decoy, in a full bite suit, takes a toy that's on a tug, a ball that's on a little rope, and he throws it over his shoulder, and the dog is barking.
At the toy.
At the toy.
Sure.
It's going to make, you know, the incentive is the toy.
Of course.
It's going to make for some clean, you're going to get a bunch of points when the dog understands it. It looks sharp. For my purposes, it's not doing, like, I don't need that.
Right.
That's not doing me any good. The dog's attention is off the decoy and is, hey, I can't wait to get that toy.
Right.
No longer the guy in the bite suit. So those techniques, you're going to get points. It does great for the sport. But for what we need, in the police dogs at least, we need them focusing on the man. And you're seeing a lot of stuff where the sport people, they're great ideas, they're communicating well, great, you know, they're doing a great job communicating with the dog, and it makes for pretty sexy performance.
Yeah, presentation is great, right?
But if we were to, if all our police dogs were to look for suspects on a sport field, it's consistent. You know, I know where I'm at. I'm at a sport field. I think I have an idea of what I need to do if I'm the dog. But when it's the dark alley or it's the backyard, you know, or it's the vehicle on the 105 or whatever, you don't have those things in place to let the dog understand, you know, and you could say, well, my voice is telling what the dog, yeah, that's great. But when you change up the environment, dogs tend to act different. And if your expectations are for the dog to do this 100% of the time, no matter where they're at, there could be some miscommunication. You look at French Ring. It's a very dynamic, very interesting trial to watch. The dogs are demanded to do a lot of things, and it's impressive. They're walking backwards, you know, right next to their, it's really cool. Well, I test French Ring dogs every once in a while when I'm in Europe. And this is what I want you to do. Okay, handler, you're over there with your dog. I'll be over there. I'm going to give the dog a little hot start in my bite suit. Hey, I'm here. I'm going to go hide somewhere. Nothing complicated.
Right.
Send the dog. And the dog, it just seems like from point A to point B, the dog is looking at the angles. What am I going to be demanded to do? They encounter me. Maybe there's a bite, maybe there's not, whatever. But the dog is always questioning, what do I need to do? I need to do something. They're not just having fun. They're thinking, what's the handler going to make me do now? I don't need a police dog going into a search in a house, in an area, vehicle, whatever, going, okay, what am I going to be asked? No, go in there, find the suspect.
Right.
If you can't get to him, bark. If you can't get to him, bite him.
Yeah.
That's all you need to worry about. Hey, when I call you back as the handler, come back to me.
Right.
But there doesn't need to be a lot of, in-betweens. And it seems like a lot of the sport people are trying to say, well, in the sport we do this, and this is how we do it. Oh, that'd be cool if I could use it in the street. By all means, go ahead and train it without damaging the dog.
Well, right.
Whatever compulsion you're using, incentive that you're using to get the dog to understand that, be careful.
But so does that happen? And that's the question, because you said the dog is dominating, the dog's really strong, and now you see the dog working in the same building for a ball. Does that change the dog's intrinsic thought process of, okay, now it's a game?
The dangerous thing is that they value the toy more than they value the man. Yeah, that could be very dangerous for a police dog or a military working dog. It makes for sexy Instagram photos or videos. But it's a miscommunication.
Well, we're seeing a lot of that. And I mean, we had this big issue that I'm not going to really get into it, but people are showing these other sports, and I don't want to even mention the names, but they're showing all this stuff and all these pressure phases on dogs. How realistic is that really when it's, some kids doing it or some people doing it who aren't really skilled at war dogs?
Yeah, it's. I think at the end of the day, is the dog having fun? Does the dog look at the task that you've presented him with as a good time? If the dog's not looking at that like, hey, I'm about to have a whole bunch of fun, it's very easy for the dog to go, I'm not going to search. It used to be you send me out, I go out, I use my nose, I smell some odor, I follow to its source, and then I get rewarded.
Right.
But when I'm demanded to do several different things before and this is just a training scenario.
Sure.
The dog can easily go, hey, this is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
Yeah.
How about I just go ahead and turn around and bark at you and the backup officers? Nobody seems to, it's sweet voices and fooey, come on, buddy,
Right.
And the dog has fun. He's making a bunch of people uncomfortable. He's looking at the body language going, everyone's a little concerned about me right now.
Yeah.
But I've seen very, very strong dogs that love to go out and search and have a good time, go, I'm not doing it. This is dumb.
And the deeper the dog is into the sport, the more difficult it is for us to get them ready for combat. I can take a Schutzen dog with a BH title and make him battle ready faster than I can a Schutzen 3 or an IGP 3 or whatever they call it now.
Why is that?
What sport inhibition, right?
Okay. He's too trained.
There's inhibitions that are necessary for the sport to get them to perform at a high level.
Right.
So I have to detrain that.
Okay.
To get the dog to do.
Because I've wondered about that. Like you said, I got this dog as a BH. I got this dog as a 1. I've rarely ever seen or heard you getting a dog that's like a 3 or a champion dog or something, right?
I got a dog. We'll talk about a favorite dog I had.
Yeah, let's do that.
I got a 10-month-old malinois from the Blonde Bomber, Thomas Haas. He called me on the phone and he goes, "Hey Steve, I've got the dog for you." And he sent me a video. I flew to Germany. And I bought this 10-month-old dog, and he was a house dog. No sport background, just a 10-month-old dog that was too much for this family. Neutered, because they thought that would calm him down. And we had that dog on the battlefield in no time. His name was Hades, and actually he's the last dog that I know of that died in this war, the most recent one, but died a hero, unfortunately. But no inhibitions in him, no concerns about violating any rules or protocol. Right?
So he had started in one of the bite sports?
No, had zero.
Nothing.
The first time he saw sleeves with Thomas Haas.
Wow.
When Thomas picked him up. Thomas picked him up from a farmer.
Wow.
Yeah, no sport background and a bad to the bone dog that was a joy to train. So yeah, but that was like, and again, like probably with him and between him and Nick the Dick, those are my two favorite dogs that I ever worked with. And Nick the Dick was not a titled. He was a IPO trained dog, but no
Never got
title
through it.
yet.
Shannon, you got a favorite dog?
I'm not going to touch any of this. This is crazy. So I'm going to go back to something that Mike said earlier about, you trying to keep yourself relevant, and if you're not, you should leave. Because that was the reason I left. I left because it was time. It was time for me to leave, and I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so. I saw the direction where this was going. And the foundation, and Mike brought up another good thing, and Steve brings it up too. It's like, look, it's real simple. We support the operator. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. All the sexy, cool stuff that's in between is noise. It's in the way. Mm-hmm. It's going to cause a problem. If we can't support the operator, we have no job. Mm-hmm. That's it. So, and I'm not saying that there are things that are out there that you don't expand and explore and test. I'm not saying that, but there has to be, you remember we used to say, or you used to say, we can't make an omelet unless we break a few eggs. And again, there's got to be a voice in there. It's like, look, dude, we're not going to break 24 eggs for one omelet, okay? There is a purpose for everything that we're doing. And that purpose needs to stay, and that's the foundation. And I think when things start to draw down, and that's inevitable, it needs to draw down. We cannot keep this up. You cannot keep that type of up tempo up that we had from those real bad war years. That's impossible to keep that up. You just can't. And if you do keep that up, you do have to expand. And when the op tempo draws down, you have to retract. Mm-hmm. You have to ebb and flow. You have to be flexible. And I saw the writing on the wall, and that became time for me to leave. I'm ready to go do something else. And I missed a lot of wonderful, tremendously cool things that these guys were doing with dogs. But it was also super gratifying to see that the stuff that we had done back in the beginning was still being pursued, still being pushed, let's change it and make it better.
You're saying as far as training, stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, because that's what it's all about. It's about the foundation. Look, the sport dog, that's great, man. I'm not the big sport dog guy. Mm-hmm. That's real. I see a lot of these YouTube videos now about how the dogs are in between the legs, mm-hmm. doing all this cool Gucci stuff, and I would love to be able to learn how to do that. And I think there may even be, if there's a testing protocol or a training protocol that we can use for what we want them to do to support the gunslinger, mm-hmm. then by all means, I want to use it. Mm-hmm. But I'm here to tell you, if you're going to walk with a dog between your legs on uneven terrain with a bunch of dudes that are carrying guns, going to get into a gunfight, I personally won't have the dog between my legs. Mm-hmm. And that type of thing that you're seeing now, man, I watch some of them. Sure. That is so ridiculously cool to watch. Right. But do I think it has an actual spot on the streets for in a combat scenario? I won't be the one that was doing it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that you bring up a point. I think the more and what you said, the more you refine the dog, the more you take away those core things that you want to have in the dog, right? Because then the dog is thinking about, if I got to get to a heel, do I have to get to a perfect foos position? Do I have to look up? Do I have to have my feet here? Do I have to be in line with the hips? You don't care about that. You care about saving a life, right? Yeah. So you care about the fundamentals. Like, this dog's got to listen and come back or
absolutely.
Go out, right?
And again, I'm not trying to talk badly about anybody, because I think there may be a way that we can, however you train the dog to do that, we can probably use that.
I don't deny that, yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to go back to the foundation, and you have to do the fundamentals.
You can't sacrifice the
no,
foundation.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And I think maybe, and I'll be the one to say it, yeah, it's getting cloudy.
Yeah.
It is. It's getting cloudy, and I'm not saying it's not a cool cloud.
No,
because it is. But
it's not a functional cloud.
For what we started, and maybe I'm just old, but for when we started, we want pipe hitters.
Yep.
And some of the things that look really cool may not and probably don't have a place in a pipe hitter club.
I'm going to be brazen here, okay? But when Shanon talked about his exit when he left, when he decided to leave, Shanon and I, we lost our friendship. Shanon saw the writing on the wall for the way the program was going. I was blind to it, and I had to call Shanon 2 years later and say, I apologize, you were right. Mike saw the writing on the wall, but one of the big pitfalls that I lose sleep over is what was being done with the electric collar.
Let's get into that.
At our place.
Because I like the e-collar. I think we all see the function in the e-collar, but I think we see a lot of people abusing it.
Yep.
Can we pee and then talk about
Sure.
the e-collar?
Okay. You want to pee here or you want to go?
I'll go
Okay.
there.
You're going to pee?
You gonna pee at the table?
Target stands.
Good freak.
Mike's got the best toilet paper I've ever seen in the counter.
And we're back.
And we're back.
We're back. We're
No
with
seat liners, though.
the drooling and the name
pissed.
calling.
We're done.
The toilet paper?
You have nice toilet paper.
Okay, yeah.
But you don't have any toilet seat liners.
Because we're mostly men.
I know. But I like to sit down every once in a while and do some texting or something.
talking?
I like a clean seat.
We're mostly men?
Yeah, mostly.
I'm all of it. That's not mostly. I'm 100%.
So we were getting into the e-collar thing.
Yeah.
So I think we should talk about it because I think it's a good tool. I mean, I fought to keep it legal, but I can also see the side of people who are abusing it.
One of the things that started happening at that organization that I had a problem with was misuse of the e-collar.
Okay, so when you guys first started the program, were you using e-collars,
Yes,
prong collars?
of course.
Okay, everything.
And I still use e-collars.
I know you do.
I'm a fan of competent e-collar
Yeah.
work.
So tell me what changed, because there's something that shifted in the unit, right?
Yeah.
In the training.
Yeah.
That was really bad, and we talked about it.
Yeah.
But what I want to get to is like using tools is one thing, and using corrections and being a certain way with a dog. But you can, with or without an e-collar, you can abuse the hell out of a dog.
Yeah.
And sometimes even worse without the e-collar. But the e-collar is an easy tool to pick on, but we're seeing it a lot because people just push the button and they're lighting up dogs.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
doing what you're calling EIP.
Yeah, electrically induced psychosis.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, the beauty of that organization, we had a big budget, and we would bring outside trainers in to, maybe show us a technique. We don't know everything. We started bringing some trainers in that were heavy with the e-collar.
Okay.
Years ago, I wrote an article about the e-collar, and I said it should be a director, not a corrector. These other trainers started, and Mike and I balked at this. They were bringing sport trainers from a different sport,
Gun dogs.
gun dogs, and they began using the e-collar. And one of the things that we saw was that the dogs lost their self-volition. They were more worried about getting in trouble, getting a zap, than doing their job.
Yep.
And it had lethal effects on the battlefield when dogs would not forge out because they were worried about getting whacked with an e-collar. And good
you saw
guys,
that?
good non-dog operators would have to step forward, and a couple of guys got injured because of it. We also saw perfectly normal dogs that came in from Europe, and then with the excess in the e-collar usage, it turned dogs into handler aggressive dogs because they were being unfairly zapped. And you're going to have to ding me for cussing, but the dogs didn't know whether to shit or go blind.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. But Mike, you want to weigh in on that when we were, yeah.
Yeah, and the one instance that comes to mind, and Steve was with me on that one, but I had to bring a dog back from overseas. We were in Afghanistan. The dog was injured. So I'm going to go home for 2 days, and while I'm there, they had a new group of. How long do they have those dogs? They had them for maybe 3 weeks, something like that. But hey, these are the new dogs, and once again, I'm looking at what dog is going to go to my new handler once we come back from that deployment. And there were 2 dogs, and they're both happy-go-lucky, and they were giving me the opportunity, like, hey, you'll get first look, pick which one you want for your guys. And happy-go-lucky and Steve helped me, and we're just doing some bite work in a building, and both dogs were kind of the same.
Yeah.
You know, they were good dogs.
Okay.
And great, you know, I guess this one did a little bit better. So that's going to be our dog when we get back. We do the deployment, we come back, now it's maybe 3 months later, and the guy we're going to have that's going to be the new handler goes to the headquarters, he goes and gets his new dog, and it's night and day. He's a pretty handler, aggressive dog. The dog would, you know, go high order off the littlest things. And when you see the dog, when it's brand new to everything, it's not like the dog got comfortable and decided I'm going to be. There was something that the dog went, hey, in this setting, in this setting, in this setting, I deem it unfair to me.
Right.
So I'm going to default to
Protecting myself.
taking it out on the handler, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm going to correct the handler before he could correct me. And you would see that. And I see it today, you know, and manual corrections, e-collar corrections, they could both go south on you. But what I try to convey is, you know, a manual correction from a handler, it's a fact of life. Mm-hmm. You know, it's nothing new to the dogs. And, you know, what I always tell people, they're sick and tired of me saying it, is, you know, 30,000 years of the dog-human relationship. And you can see it. You know, we have a lot of dogs that go through the basic class. I test a lot of dogs, and you can see the dog perfectly understand when you make a correction on the dog. Not punishment, but a manual correction. It could be leash, soft stick, whatever. Mm-hmm. You can see if you applied the right amount of force and it was in a timely manner, that dog goes, oh, that makes sense to me.
Right.
You know, if it's not timely and it's too much force, you can see the dog go, I'm going to give you the good news now, right?
Right.
But with an e-collar, you're missing that connection.
How
that
so?
human dog, this is me telling you to stop that.
Okay.
I'm going to show you.
Right.
With the e-collar, hey, stop that or do this, whatever. And it's, to me, it's too abstract. It's missing the human part of the equation. Mm-hmm. And when you initially do any type of e-collar corrections or whatever kind of corrections, sometimes everything goes great. It's novel to the dog.
Right.
And they default to being, you know, to doing the action that you want them to do. But later on, you can see the dog going, okay, I remember when you told me this last time, and it could be several reps later, it could be several weeks later, whatever. There's this residual effect that happens, and it could be negative, you know. And it's to me, great. Train the dog manually. This is what I want you to do. And there's incentive.
Sure.
Could be the bite ball, whatever. But before you apply the e-collar, I think they need to understand that task where you've shown them manually. They're able to repeat it,
Yeah.
you know, and then you go, okay, I'm going to apply the e-collar to refine it.
So you're not against the e-collar.
No,
but
absolutely
you're saying,
not.
And I think you and I agree on this. I think you have to take the dog, you're not going to use an e-collar to teach something. You're going to use an e-collar and bring it in later as a refinement tool.
Right. And I've had dogs, great, they made it through the basic class. They graduated, they got certified. That doesn't mean that they're proven dogs.
Right.
You know, this dog's going to have a career at whatever department. But they've passed this stage.
The basic stage.
And then we have, you know, an agency might say, okay, great, school is out. Let's go ahead and refine that with the e-collar, and it could be 2 weeks after the basic class.
Right.
They haven't even gone to their city or county and
Right.
kind of learned the job. You know what I mean? I'm going to try to get this brand new dog at the same level as our most experienced dog as fast as possible, and that's just not the reality of it. And they've gone to, an e-collar class or done e-collar trainings where it's like they're going to work the verbal out recall. That's a challenging thing for the dog to do at this stage in the game consistently.
Right. Without
after a building search or after a vehicle extraction, not on a flat grassy field where there's a little bit of context. And they go, well, let's muzzle up the dog. He'll engage, and then we'll go ahead and give him, corrections with the e-collar. Well, the dog can't even bite.
Yep.
It's going to be pretty easy. But what are we affecting now? We're probably affecting the dog's muzzle fight, which equals to we're affecting the dog to engage a human being that's not wearing protective equipment.
Right.
That's
mental problem.
Right. You're going to have issues. And I've seen this a couple of times where I go, hey, what's the rush? And also, are you looking at what how the dog's perceiving this right now? Good luck getting this dog to go ahead and engage, someone that needs to be engaged.
But I'm glad you're saying that. Like you said, that what's the rush? And I think from what I see in my life as a dog trainer and an advocate, I think everybody gets the dog and it's got to, let's get this stuff done. Let's get it. Like my Shmuel, he's not even a year old. Like I was talking to my friend Peter Scherk in Germany, and I said, you know what? I've got zero ambitions my only ambition for the next year is to train him.
Right.
Like I just want to expose them to things. And I think whether you're in a sport, whether you're in a hobby, or whether you're in stuff like you guys are doing, I think it's important to take the dog's mental and mature qualities into context really importantly, because you don't know where he is. You've got to expose him. You got to let him see before you start bumping him on or frying him.
For what we're doing, a dog graduates the basic handler class, and now he's going to the actual agency. He's a police dog at that agency.
How old now? 2 years?
It depends how
but
old
not
the dog.
Much younger than that, right?
Well, it's not an age thing. It's an experience thing and a training issue. But you have a young officer that just graduated the academy, the police academy.
Okay.
It's not, hey, school's out, welcome to the department,
Right.
go report to homicide and solve some murders.
Right.
There's a process. He's learning his job a little bit, and maybe he's not put in those positions that you would put the 8-year veteran in,
right.
Right off the bat. And it's the same thing with the dog. You have your new dog. Yeah. He's not at the same level as the most experienced dog, so you kind of have to be picking and choosing. Let the dog see his new environment, get some experience. And I'm not saying it needs to be 4 years later, let's apply the e-collar, but dog dependent, because they're all individuals.
Yep, 100%.
You got to be able to go, hey, you know what? It's been 3 months. Let's go ahead and bring those left and right limits in.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to perform within there.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes people are like, yeah, but with my dog, I was able to go ahead and apply the e-collar, get those corrections, get the performance I wanted. Well, this is a totally different dog.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think that's what people think, because I see a lot of dog trainers, even in the pet and sport dog industry, it's a formula. And I always said, this is my issue with people who are certifying dog trainers and all this stuff. I don't think it's a formula. I think dogs are individual. And I think unless you have the knowledge, like you have, or your father has, or these guys have, unless you have that knowledge to go, this dog can't handle that pressure, or this dog needs a lot more pressure. Unless you understand that, you should stop putting boom, we're going to put the e-collar on the first step, we're going to do this, we're going to condition the we're going to do this way. I don't think it works. I think it's impossible for one methodology to work for every dog, just like one methodology to work for you and me getting in shape, like getting our diets, getting our workouts in line. I think everybody, because it's so easy, because it's got 3 buttons and 1 dial, how hard can it be? But it's really hard. It's super, because sometimes you got to come down harder on the dog because you'll screw the dog up by going too soft, and sometimes you got to go really soft to get the dog used to it so it doesn't startle him and he turn around and bite you.
And when all the bird dog training started coming in, I think I just came on board right when that was becoming interesting to everyone. And what I saw, Steve was like, this is how I train a dog. He's been doing it for 25, 30 years or whatever. I had an idea of, how I like to work with dogs. But some of the other people there were going, wow, this guy, he's a bird dog trainer. He does this cool thing, and there's a placing board. Wow, that's pretty cool, da-da-da-da-da. And they were shifting their methodologies. And I'm not saying that you should never change or, whatever, don't be innovative. But you we hired you because you know how to train a dog for whatever agency you work for, and you were successful. Do your job, not catch on to this new flashy thing and change your whole way of doing it. They weren't hiring students of the arts of dogs.
Right.
This is what we need the dogs to do. Do you know how to do that? Yeah, I know how to do that. Okay, do it. All right. And I just learned this new thing. So I had this 18-week program to get the dog to learn how to whatever,
Right.
and what you saw were people were in this endless loop of dogs that are just in this constant program with no end in sight.
Yep.
And that was frustrating to
Sure.
watch, where you see these people contemplating questions of the dog's mind, and it's like, hey, this isn't that hard.
Yeah.
This isn't that hard at all.
But that's what don't you think it's getting so, with all this science bullshit going in, and I'm not an anti-science person, but don't you think this overcomplicating?
They brought in a animal behaviorist, a very well-known, very, very smart person with, Dr. DR in front of his name. And he, a very, very, very talented animal behaviorist. And he did a lot of things with a lot of different animals. And they brought him over and, what's up? No, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Wait, what do you want to say? I mean, you don't get to steal the conversation.
This is the good part.
Yeah, this is the good part. He's getting to the
You
good
weren't
part.
even there at the presentation.
On that point, I was going to say this animal behaviorist had told us that he trained monkeys, birds, trained cats. Well, I'm thinking to myself, as a thinking person, I've been doing dogs for 25 years and I still don't know everything. How in the fuck
You have to edit that out.
Yeah,
can you master cats, apes, all these other be an
why isn't
expert
he
in all these
asking you
other
to train
things?
his monkey?
Yeah, but I don't even know everything about dogs yet. But you've done this with several species. I called bullcrap on that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the science issue, probably.
Yeah, and he was going to the big question that guys were asking is like, hey, how do you get a dog to do this? And it was something that, we didn't struggle with it. We either made it work out for the dog and the handler, or we didn't. But hey, how do you get a dog to do this? And he goes, that's a very good question. I worked with a foreign, special forces unit, in whatever country, and they had the same issue. And what I found was if you want the dog to do or not do that certain thing, is you have to find a dog that doesn't like biting so much. Were you there for that?
No, I was overseas.
Yeah, you were overseas, and I remember hearing that, and I was like, this is a world famous behaviorist.
Yeah.
I have all the respect in the world for him.
Sure.
And I remember looking around to my colleagues and everyone that was there, and it was, nobody caught on to it. It's like, ooh. They're taking notes, and I'm looking around like someone should just offer him a Pepsi,
Right.
say thanks, take care. But I think he ended up getting like $40,000 to go train guys how to teach chickens with a clicker.
Yeah, clicker.
Yeah. And we didn't go to that. No, you came back eventually. I was like, guess where everyone's going? Hey,
Together.
Mike, Steve, do you guys want to go to learn how to chicken train? Nope. No, save your money.
Well, it goes
We're
down.
going to the movie theater.
It goes down to that, all this stuff that's coming through. You think of Outlaw Josie Wales, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining, So, yeah. So you don't fall for
Well,
everything.
just curiously, between the two of you guys, and I'm being very, very serious, who came up with the idea to bring a bird dog trainer in to do special operations dogs?
Oh, don't point that at me because it wasn't I.
But no, I mean, I'm serious. What's the mindset behind it? Because, I mean, if you look at a floppy-eared dog, and we have one. We have a great dog, floppy-eared dog, great drives, everything. But so far removed from confidence in conflict or this thing that you're looking for in your dogs or things I like in my dogs, what did somebody have a good say? I mean, I'm stuttering. Like, I don't understand why they would bring that person in.
Well, so I'm trying to. No, go ahead.
I think somebody saw those dogs and the capability they did, and they go, okay, that's interesting. Maybe it's applicable to what we could use a little bit, the directional hand arm signals.
Sends and all that,
And somebody saw that and said, that might be useful to us. And like when that was all, you saw that like right from, I was late to the initial introduction, and you saw it and you went, oh, okay, great. Back, left, you know, like it's really cool to watch, and where they call it threading the needle, where they go out 400 yards,
straight,
300, whatever. They go out and they could direct them exactly to wherever the dog's reward is.
Yep.
And, you know, seeing what maybe one of the things that we ask the dogs to do overseas is we have an idea that maybe someone's hiding over there. Instead of, you know, economy of effort, get the dog over there. But I remember Steve seeing that, and day 3 going, yeah, well, what if it's nighttime?
Right.
You know, and that's what everyone should have went and goes, hey, that's cool, but can they do it at night? And it didn't even need to be a question, because no, it can't. Yeah, glow sticks. They don't have IR capability. You don't have the goggles on the IR chem lights.
Right.
And so right then and there you go, we don't need it.
Yeah.
It's cool, but we don't need it.
Yeah.
But these people kept on coming, and they're coming, and people are like, I could work my dogs that I have over here, these dogs that we have in the kennel that we need to shake out, whatever. But no, I'm going to the little bird dog thing we got going on for 6 hours, and they just kept on bringing them back. And now it wasn't only just the directional portion of it. It was, hey, I'm a bird dog guy, which is, you know, my hat's off to them for their particular
Great for bird dogs.
endeavor. Yeah. But I can show you how to make this dog quiet before he goes in the bill. I can show you how to get the dog quiet and calm for gunfire. And everyone should have been saying, we could do that too.
Right.
What do? Okay, it's a 5-minute conversation. I might try a little bit of that.
Sure.
But it doesn't need to be a 3-week, hey, pay me this much money, and then let me take all your time, and let me try to do it with your pointy-ear dogs. They have dogs that are looking for dead ducks or a bumper or whatever.
Yeah.
The dogs we're using are looking to fight a human being.
Right.
The desire, the reward is a little bit different.
I see that same stuff going on, and this is where social media drives me nuts. Like, I hate, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mind being corrected on this, I hate when I see somebody taking a golden retriever or a lab and doing bite work with them.
I saw a golden retriever on Instagram doing bite work.
That wasn't with Newt.
Yeah.
That wasn't a golden retriever. That was
What
a
was that?
Volvavard or something like that. It was definitely not. It was not. I know which video. So because Janet said,
I was like, that's cool.
She goes, I can't believe that pissed me off. See, it's just the opposite. Janet's like, that pissed me off, and I'm like, I looked at it, but it wasn't a golden retriever.
Blackie sold me a dog. It was a English Shepherd Malinois mix, the Huntsman. My favorite dog ever.
Really?
Got him as a detection dog. Blackie, I love that dog. But you could do bite work with it. A sleeve.
Okay.
You know, you go through the motions,
Okay.
whatever. But that dog's a detection dog with Henderson, Nevada. I love that dog. It took me forever to try to sell him because he was a weird looking dog.
Is that the one that was here when Steve and I were here?
Yeah.
Years ago?
You
Oh,
take him out, he's like,
yeah,
weirdo.
Yeah, real weird, yeah.
But I would take him, hike him up in the mountains, and I was jumping over this fallen tree, and it was wet, and I slipped, and I slid down the hill like 20 yards, and the huntsman, neurotic, weird. You don't know. He's got the Malinois and an English Shepherd that I never met. But I'm on my back on the side of the hill, and here comes the huntsman, and I'm thinking, like, he's going to finish me off. Like, he saw the weakness, and he's going to finish. But he came, he slowed down, he stopped, and he laid down, and he's like, Is this where we die? You know?
Wow.
But loved that dog. Took him everywhere and had to sell him. But he would go through the motions on bite work. Yeah.
Back on the electric collar, one event, when we go into trainer knowledge, like, as I said earlier, some of the people that came in to be trainers later because we needed extra trainers, guys like Robert Cabral, Mike Deal, the Division I players already had good gigs, and we couldn't get Division I players, so we got buddied some people as trainers into the organization. We had one particular dog that had that EIP, and it wouldn't forge out in Afghanistan, and 2 guys were shot. They sent the dog back to the United States and asked me and Mike, the trainer over there, the trainer that was over there, said, "Can you fix this dog?" And Mike and I, the dog got back to Fort Bragg, and I said, let's first check its courage. And we staked the dog out. Now, this is a dog that had been under this trainer's guidance for months, a basic stakeout test. We staked it out. I walked up like the boogeyman, and had the dog not been tied up, it would have been in Charlotte. It couldn't get away from me fast enough. This trainer.
But before that, it was.
No, it didn't have the basic selection. It wouldn't have passed a basic
I
selection.
could contribute really well with this.
But
Let me speak over you.
Okay.
Do you remember when that handler was looking for his new dog? And we had a dog. It wasn't even an Atlas horse dog, but you and I are messing with, I forget its name, but you and I are goofing off with this one dog. He's a cool dog, but his bite work was great. And Queen was the dog you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that individual handler, he comes out, and he had a dog that was kind of a leadership challenge beforehand to him. You know, maybe I don't remember, but we go, "Hey man, this dog, it's awesome. It's bite work." And it was a very user-friendly dog too. But we went, he's a I don't want to say killer. He's a hard biting dog. He's a keeper. Yeah, he's a performer. His bite work's great. And he went to us. I remember exactly where we were standing. He goes, "They all bite." You remember that?
Yeah.
But I think he was gravitating towards Queen because she's not the dog that's going to drag you all over target when she's excited.
Yeah.
She was very, very manageable. And he deploys with the dog, and they sent us the ISR image of that night. And matter of fact, I've heard about this on a podcast. It wasn't the handler that was on the podcast. It was someone who was there, and they're talking about that exact incident. But the dog was scared. It was a real deal. The guys are hiding, kind of a depression in the ground. There's some foliage around it. The dog, you could tell it's on odor. It's smelling something, but it's kind of probing in the hole and looking around and then coming back. The handler sends it over again. And the dog should have just jumped in there and handled business. Because there was people in there with guns, and those people popped up eventually as the dog was coming back. I think one of the guys got shot, wounded.
I think two got shot.
Total failure. They send the dog back with the handler. Steve and I, on our own accord, it was like, well, let's go ahead and mess around with the dog. He does the stakeout thing, and then there was a cage out in the woods, that like a tiger cage just sitting out in the woods. I went in there and I put on the garb of what the enemy was wearing at the time, and I was just kind of squatting down, not making any eye contact. They send the dog out. She gets an odor. She starts bracketing at where I'm at, and then boom, she's right there smelling the cage. I think I found the guy, and I remember I just looked at her like that. I wasn't planning to do anything. It's not some cerebral move, but I just looked at her like that, and she ran past the handler at the start of the search and was like, here, gone. And we're like, hey, that dog, get rid of her. This dog's gonna do you no good, because they were still planning. It was like, hey, repair my dog.
Yeah, here's a symptom of how bad it got. So we told the handler, we go, this dog is not the dog, you need to get another dog. Mm-hmm. This trainer then sent a scathing email back to Mike. How dare you, why are you showing him, this dog's weakness? This became a recurring theme with this trainer, where he would conceal weak dogs.
He was selecting those dogs.
Well, he's a trainer, but they were concealing weak dogs that they knew were weak, mm-hmm. and they would push them forward because it was a labor union. They didn't want to, admit.
Well, you think those weak?
He wasn't, and that was the thing. Like, I noticed over there, guys depending on where you were, we had trainers that were in positions where it was their job to go ahead and train the new dogs. And the trainers would rotate from being with teams that are deploying to being back at the kennels training new dogs. And the trainers that were at the kennels, they would make the European trips to go get new dogs. And Shannon and I were talking about it. You could be in that spot. You go to Europe, you bring back 2-3 dogs, and everyone's going to look at them. Mm-hmm. And I see that happen here sometimes where it's like, okay, let's go look for our new dog. And boom, this guy went to Europe, brought the dogs back, and now everyone is like taking the dogs out every once in a while, watching you work with the dogs. And those trainers, certain trainers, would feel like, oh, everyone's evaluating the dogs that I selected. And if the dogs don't work out, everyone's going to think I'm really bad at this whole selection thing. And you shouldn't have that mindset. I go to Europe every 7 weeks, get a bunch of dogs, test them, bring them back, and I know some of those dogs are not going to police departments. They tested fine. I don't know which ones, but I know that people are going to go ahead and select them. The agencies are going to come. They're going to test them, and they either like them or they don't. They're going to go to a basic handler class. They either pass or they don't. But I am 100% comfortable with going, yeah, I bought that dog. I tested the dog. I bought the dog, and agency whatever doesn't like them. It's going to happen again.
Doesn't work out.
It's going to happen again. But some of those guys were so paranoid that, man, everyone's going to think I'm a horrible dog trainer because I picked dogs that didn't work out at this organization. And, the Queen, that trainer, he didn't go to Europe, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe someone else brought that dog back, but that's the dog he was in charge of with his guys and all the other dogs that he had in that team. When you see those flaws, that's not the place where you go, hey, it's a project dog. Let's see if we could go ahead and get our heads together, figure out how to make the dog better. The beauty of that place was going, hey, it's not progressing. Go back to Add the Horse or go back to VLK or go back wherever you got them. We got to start over with a new dog.
Yeah.
You don't keep dogs going, well, I think I could crack this code.
Right.
It's not a stripper girlfriend. It's a dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was a good analogy. You get rid of it. You part ways with that dog. No. When people were saying, hey, this dog is manageable during a recall, or he's manageable during, he's quiet outside the house, but he sucks on the search and he sucks on the engagement, 100% get rid of that dog.
Done.
And people just were like, well, no, I learned something from the bird dog guy, or, whoever.
And that's where the e-collar thing comes in too, right? That's when the e-collar comes in. Let's pressure him to get better at that. Because I see that.
Yeah.
Let's pressure him through that.
There was another dog. There was, it was a dog that they were using a lot of different cerebral scientific techniques on a dog that we've already identified as shouldn't be at that place. But they kept him on. No, we want the dog to do all this, sexy stuff, whatever. And when it came down to it, it had a pretty easy give me, first time engagement overseas. And I'm not saying it was easy, but it was kind of hand fed to that dog. Didn't want anything to do with it. And it was because the dog is just constantly half his brain on is what does the handler want, and half the brain is let me go out in this area and find someone. You kind of want the dog's whole brain going, I need to go this way to go have a good time. And if there is a time where the handler's like, hey, wake up, come back here. Yeah, come back here.
Sure.
But you don't want the dog overthinking things.
Yeah. Does that being on the topic of the e-collar, don't you or do you see that that's one of the misuses of it, or is that not? Because that's, in my opinion, I'm seeing that happen in training.
So the misuse of it is now, it kind of broke my heart because it turned into where guys their e-collar was always on them, no matter, some of the guys would walk from the kennel to the building with their e-collar here, push button, but give me the ball, button. And it wasn't the soldiers' fault. That's how they were taught,
Right.
some of them.
Would you deploy a dog on an e-collar?
Absolutely, 100% of the
you
time.
would? Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay.
The e-collar is a director. It's my 100-yard leash, of course.
Yep.
But I'm not going to pay $15,000 to Ken Licklider or Dave Reaver and then allow somebody to shock the testosterone out of this $15,000 dog, right?
Sure.
So, for my opinion, the e-collar, I know I'm not buffed like you and Mike, but I correlate it with weightlifting. I train my dog with my hands, deadlift, bench, squat.
Yep.
And then later, maybe do concentration curls as a finisher. That's the way I use the e-collar. I think that all of us believe the e-collar we do. I never teach a command that I can't manually enforce.
Right.
The e-collar is a finisher.
I agree with you
He's got an
100%.
understanding of the
Yeah.
command, but
It's not a teaching tool. I don't see it as I see it as a guiding tool, but I see teaching to be something that you lure it, you shape it, you instill it in the dog's mind, and then once they get to that point, okay, so at 100 yards, the dog's not downing, I can help him, right? Instead of running up on him and doing it. And I think that's one of the things that people take away from it. The e-collar gives you a tool that makes things very impersonal. Like the dog's 100 yards away, I need the dog to down. Boom, I can get the dog to down. It's not personal. I'm not running up to him and yanking, going, hey, I said down, right? But if you look at it as, okay, I'm going to hold, and there's trainers, we all know their names, they'll use this other methodology of training where they hold pressure on the e-collar and say sit, and they don't let the pressure off till the dog sits. Maybe it works great, I don't know. But for my opinion, I think a dog doesn't learn well that way. And I talked to a good friend of mine, Frank Phillips, who's a great IGP trainer. I don't know if you know him, but I said something about, I said,
I thought we were going to call it Schutzen and not.
oh, Schutzen. But and I was talking about something, and I said, the dog, whatever, he's not downing fast enough. He goes, I can tell you one way you're not going to get the dog to do it any faster, and that is pressure. Right? So the idea is, you can use an e-collar for a lot of stuff, but it's the categorical misuse of it. And I think that's what we should really talk about, that these people come in, bird dog, sport dog, whatever trainer, and they're going to use this tool that's going to do something for one thing, but it's not going to work for your thing. And I'm point blank against a lot of e-collar use. I've advocated to keep it sane because I see the benefit for it. Right? I think it's going to be, first of all, if you illegalize it, just like drugs or whatever, it's not going to go away. They're going to use it behind the barn. And then they're going to have to use a lot more pressure on the dog in that short duration, hidden time to get the dog to pay attention. And then they're going to take it off, put it away, and go out in the field. And the dog's going to be psychologically harmed. But we should really crack down on people who abuse it. And I think you should make that point that you were talking about of people who go into something like the military and don't have knowledge. They're floppy-eared hunting people, and they're going to tell people how to train a military dog. And even a sport dog person. I mean, you could take the best sport dog person in the world. I think it's bullshit if that person is going to go in and tell you how to get a dog to go do a building search.
So there are great sport dog trainers like that are also police dog handlers.
Mike Deal,
Kevin Sheldall.
Yeah.
Those
Amazing
guys are
people.
golden. Yes,
Golden.
They sport background, but they've got the aggregate knowledge.
Different.
So if I'm going to get
them.
get them. Yeah, for
Right?
that.
If you
that
want
type
to
of
kind of
work.
dovetail stuff together and you want to make it look nice or you want more precision in it, I mean, you can't get a better person than Mike Deal. He's been on the field.
Right.
Right? But you can't take the guy who won the world championships, at whatever, and say, hey, can you help me with this? Because he's never been in the field.
And we brought Mike Deal on the compound early on in the salad years of our program. Oh yeah, Mike Deal and Craig Patton played an integral part in our success and enlightening us.
Yeah, well, we brought Mike and Craig. I mean, we had a good relationship with Indianapolis PD, and we brought them in on multiple training days. Paid them money to do what they're supposed to do, and that's help teach us. I actually pissed Mike off about, Mike, because I asked him when he was there, says, what can we do to make our program better? And he's like, Shannon, you got a really great, stop. I didn't ask you that. How can I make it better? I don't need you to blank, 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 blank.
Right.
I need you to tell me how to make this better. But that was the attitude that we had towards guys like that. We're not bringing you here to tell us what you think we want to hear. I need you to tell me what I don't know and teach it to me. So we talk about the e-collar. Yeah, we use the e-collar in the early days. And yes, we all, I think, agree on the same way. I never use the e-collar without first teaching the dog manually.
Yep.
You can't, you don't have a 100-yard leash.
Right.
So you got a little e-collar. You got to do that. It becomes, in my opinion, and if I piss anybody off, whatever, it becomes a leadership issue. The leadership issue in that you look at the direction that you see this going. And it's getting away from our foundation of what it was at the beginning. Never forget where you come from. It was about send a dog in and gauge a bad guy. Let him do it with a bunch of guys that are shooting guns, bunch of gunslingers. When it starts to get, and you have to spread out. You have to let the wings, you've got to let the little kids do their thing.
Sure.
But you also, as the leader, you have to give them guidance to bring them back.
Wait. Who gives the guidance to the leaders? The team.
Our leadership, the kennel leadership has to look at all of these trainers and see all these wild, weird directions that it's going.
Sure.
Which was, I pushed back on all of this, every single bit of it, and at the end, I hate to say it, but I left. I ended up leaving because of it.
Because you saw it going in.
Well, yeah,
direction.
it's going in it. We forgot where we came from.
Yeah.
Again, I think it needs to go out. But we had the Pats and the Allens, and we had guys that were there who were like, come back.
Okay.
And these are the guys that were there at the beginning, and they were there for a while. They saw it for what it was worth. And when it starts to stray, it's the leadership and it's the kennel leadership needs to come back. You
Why
gotta
didn't
have a
it?
compass.
Why didn't it? What led it so far astray? Because we know it went haywire.
Because it goes down to the leadership, the soldier that would be placed in charge of the kennel. The first several years, we had the franchise players, very smart people. I correlate it with flying an airplane. When the program started, we had Pat McCauley as our leader, and the nose of the airplane was pushed up, and it continued going up with these great bosses that we had, Con, Chuck, Allen, and then we get another one in that tipped the nose down a little bit, and then
Not Jimmy.
not Jimmy, we love Jimmy,
My favorite.
and then towards the end we got a couple of not so great ones that put it in a nosedive.
And there's no way to fix that because there's nobody over them.
So I tried, and the thing was that when I would illuminate problems, they called it drama.
Right.
And I would vent. Mike had already left. Mike and I actually went to a leader in the building when we saw what was coming and what was going on, and he heard us, but we were drama, right? So, yeah, it's one. And another thing, like what we were seeing was, I remember these guys would the train up for a dog. You had several months to do it, and we would have handlers go through the course. And I remember one particular handler came to my squadron, and he was walking up with his new dog, and I said, how angry are you going to be when I flunk your dog? Because I could just see it. The dog had a lost look in his eyes, and I chased the dog out of a building. But they were angry, like they were concealing this, knowing this dog was weak. The same guy I told you about where the two guys got shot, they would conceal weakness, and I would say, in the building, like would an armor that knows the gun has a good chance of blowing up in your hand, would we allow that to fly? Would a guy that from the rigger shed that had a parachute that had a 1 in 100 chance of not opening, would you give that to the soldier? Why would you give a dog that you know is flawed? Why, why this?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that started deteriorating it because you went through a lot of stuff there. You caught a lot of gripe. And I mean, you and I talked about this a lot. I think you're an integral guy. You got an immense amount of integrity, and you care about the unit, you care about the dogs, you care about the soldiers. Yeah. But you got railroaded.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way. These guys here, a couple of close friends were there.
Well, I think we all agree on it.
There was a catalyst to my exit.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of, my nickname at the unit was Uncle Poops. A lot of the soldiers, they'd call me the Uncle Poops, and they would come and vent to me. And then I would sound off at meetings, again, drama queen problems. And the catalyst was a lot of soldiers started getting bit by dogs because of EIP or whatever. And
so where does it stand now? I mean, you want to mention that? Do you want to say where it is now?
I want to say that is the greatest organization in the world.
I agree.
The soldiers are awesome.
No, I agree with
they're
that.
totally just a couple of people, but so we're talking franchise players, right?
Yeah.
When I went out, the leader, when I retired, the leader of the program was a guy that took a dog, and he was supposed to come to Iraq to see me.
When he was a handler.
Right. And he needed some remedial training. So the boss at the time said, "Steve, we're going to send this guy over to Iraq to learn from you." Cool. The guy gets to Iraq, and he brought the wrong dog. He didn't bring his dog. He went to the wrong kennel and took the wrong dog and walked it 20 minutes over the building to get the bus to the airplane.
Petting it the whole
to
way.
Germany. Well, there's an old saying, be careful of the toe you step on today because it might be connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow. So I never dreamed I would never dream this guy would ever become the leader, right? He comes to me in Iraq and he goes, "I brought the wrong dog. This isn't my dog." Well, me and a couple other fun guys, Jason, who you've talked to, we're like, at what point did you not realize this was your dog? Like, was it during the 15-minute walk? We were teasing him, right?
Does he pick his kids up at school?
When the dog's looking at you like you have a dick growing out of your forehead, like, when do you not realize that's not your dog? Hardy, har, har, har.
Yeah.
Well, guess who became my boss?
Yeah.
Right? I forgot all about that, but he didn't. Yeah. So.
But that's the guy who got the leadership position.
Oh yeah, and then it would, but ultimately my demise, right? Yeah.
In the early days, it was Steve and Shanon and a few other guys, but Steve and Shanon were kind of the shot callers on the direction of, not how the dogs are being trained, but like, this is what we're going to do. This is what the dogs need.
Okay.
And so they both carried pretty big swords in dog wise. And as we got more trainers, they hired me, a few other guys that are there, and all these new capabilities are coming in. It was like a race to see who could be the smartest guy in the room. We would have kennel meetings where it was like these Chinese parliaments on what do you guys think? And you could see people tripping over themselves to look really, really intellectual dog-wise, which, was pretty foreign to me as far as like, let's be super smart and scientific about dogs. And
use big words.
Yeah. I read, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it wasn't based more on what do we need the dogs to get to do? What do you got to do with the dogs that you're in charge of to get them ready to go? It was, hey, let me impress the boss with this new pearl of wisdom I heard somebody say. And, that there was really no place for that.
So there's multiple trainers at the unit at the same time?
Yes.
But is there one head trainer who oversees?
No, it was never really, there was, when Shanon was there, he'd been there a real long time and he knew what right looks like. And, Steve, the same thing. So everyone kind of knew if you weren't one of those two guys, what direction you need to take your dogs in. But everyone kind of knew. But right before I left, there was talk about we need a head trainer. And we need, hey, maybe it might be a good idea before the dogs go over, to its new handler or its new team or whatever, there should be some form of certification. There was talk about it.
Right.
And that place wasn't dog wise, hey, let's have certifications. Let's have, let's annotate what the dog did today, training wise, to see if we look for patterns. It should be a bunch of good dog guys that go, he's getting it, he's not.
Right.
Continue on with this dog. This dog's going back.
And overall,
it's not
that's
that hard. Yeah.
Fair to the soldier and to the dog, both. I mean, isn't it? It's not like an ego thing. Everything's now, from what you're saying, it sounds like it's fair to the trainer. Like, oh, we don't want to hurt his feelings. But somebody's going to get killed or a dog's going to get really hurt or messed up, right?
That's the extreme part. Yeah, but I mean, just in the basic dog stuff, we could tell when a dog was not having a good time. And, when a dog is having fun during training, he's probably learning. When he's not having fun and he's just going through the motions, the learning part has probably stopped. And, it's same with us, with dog training in general, what we do, police, military, whatever. It's about the dog having fun. But I think it's the same thing with the human beings. And example, when I'm teaching an agitator seminar, you learn a little bit of technique. There's not a lot of deep thinking going on, just enough to be safe. And then I give them little challenges, little games, right? They have to, do certain things as the dog's coming at them, and they don't really focus on this, 70-pound malinois coming at them at full speed. They're thinking about the thing they have to do to accomplish the task,
right,
which should be fun.
Right.
And generally, everyone goes, hey, that was a fun course. I'm very comfortable with working with a dog, whatever. And when people try to I've been to some agitator seminars, decoy seminars, where it's like, today this is where the rubber hits the road, like you're gonna be feeling it tonight, and this is no, laughing matter. Where it's like, no, it is a laughing matter. Everything we do here should be a laughing matter. If the dogs are sitting there thinking like, this is no laughing matter, this is very, very serious, this is life on the line, it's gonna be, the dogs just don't do it. They're goofballs. And, if we're taking ourselves so seriously and we're so, in such deep thought, if a dog is keeping you awake at night, remember we knew some people that were like, I'm just awake at night trying to figure out how to fix this dog. And it's like, these dogs keep you awake at night?
Right.
You can't figure out
a dog.
The dog, like, you're here to be a dog trainer. Like, this should not be keeping you awake at night. But they, it wore on them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really not sure. Yes. So I think I think a lot of this nonsense happened when I wasn't there.
After you left.
After I left, and sorry. No. Look, you can't not branch out. You can't. You can't say so. Again, I say this is a leadership problem. You can't stay so laser focused, but you also can't flutter around like a butterfly and waste time. The fact that you have to, you make yourself, needed, or to make in that community, that's not what you do. Okay, you can't. You're valuable or you're invaluable. You're valuable because you're supporting the operator. That's what you do. You can't force a square peg into a round hole. And I think looking back in retrospect and seeing it from my perspective, and being in contact with guys that were there and are still there, and seeing how it's going and seeing where it's going and seeing all of these things move in, to see the expansion, I think it's phenomenal that it's done that. But if you forget why you're there, you're going to run into serious problems. And if you don't remember, there's three things. You need to have good people, you need to have support, and you need to have that catalyst, that timing. And when you are in a drawdown like we are right now, GWAT is gone. It may come back, who knows? But when you're in a downsize posture and you keep expanding and you keep going in these directions that really you shouldn't be going into, you're going to run into problems. And I think these are some of the problems that the current leadership is going to have to face. They're going to have to understand it. What are we doing here? You're supporting the operator.
Right.
Plain and simple. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. Yes, there are some things in SOCOM that they will do to breed to branch out and look at other avenues? Absolutely there are. And if you can find something that fits a canine, not the other way around, then that's great, that you can use a dog for. That's absolutely wonderful. But again, if it comes back to not supporting the operational posture, you're wasting time and money and assets.
Do you think, because you left way before this happened, or a bit before this happened, do you think that it was able to happen because we weren't in a situation where we had boots on the ground?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, sure. I mean, that you're gonna. Complacency is a killer.
It's not as important.
No,
right?
it's a killer. You got to find your way to stay valuable. The way you do that, again, in any tier 1 unit, I think in any community, is the dudes that are on the ground. You have to be embedded with them.
Yeah.
You have to support them. They have to look at you and go, "Oh, I got to have a dog."
Right.
Because when we get into a gunfight, we're going to want a dog.
But they're not in gunfights right now, so they can start.
And then again, I think the best thing to do, you got to tighten the belt. Yeah, and getting creative, I think, is a way to do it. I mean, if you get creative, that's fantastic. And if you're going to get the support that's going to allow all this expansion, that's great too. But you cannot forget your foundation.
But the expansion is getting away from the core mission.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Right? And that's the downside to the expansion. You can get so big that you're not valuable anymore. You know, what is it? Everybody wants to be elite. But if everybody's elite, there's no more elite because everybody's elite. You know, so you have to stay current. You have to stay embedded with the operators. And that's why you're there.
I think that's the core mission, though, right? The core mission is
some really smart guys that were there told, and I heard this. I heard this more than one time, and I told this to the guys. I did an NCOPD when I went back for the last kennel dedication. You know, when they had a new kennel facility that was being shown to everybody. It was being dedicated to Aaron Greider, who was lost in combat. Everybody in that building, every single person in a tier 1 community supports the operator. It is not the other way around. If you find yourself more important than the operator, you are on borrowed time. That's it. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. I'm gonna take that to my grave. If you cannot support the guy that is pointing a gun at a bad guy, who is the operator in SOCOM, you don't have a job. You may have one now because 10 years ago you were very popular. But if you don't find a way to stay sitting right next and embedded with that force, then you're on borrowed time.
So why don't people call bullshit on bullshit? Because if you take the core mission, the core function, like what you're talking about with dogs, which you're extremely skilled at doing, picking and training for these dogs, and then you start to complicate it with, which I get frustrated, is this science argument or this incredible like technical thing. It's like what you said. Like I find training a dog, I find it so simple. Like in fact, I think it's so simple that sometimes complicated people can't understand it. They have to complicate it to make it more palatable for them and the people they're talking to. But why don't people call bullshit on it? I do it all the time. Like I say, look, it's not that complicated to train a dog. I don't know why people pay me because it's simple. You lure a dog to do what you want them to do. You reward them for doing what you want them to do. Once they understand what you want them to do, you can correct them for what you want them to do. And that's it. And they're either going to get it or they're not going to get it. Besides that, you really are putting a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, and you know what? In any scenario where there's a leader, look, the leader doesn't owe you an explanation for everything that he does. He doesn't. I don't see the whole big picture. It is easy for me as being gone is to see, I can sit back and pick out all of these problems and point to problems. And it's very simple for me to sit back and say, here's a solution. Get rid of them all and start from scratch.
Maybe you'll
that's an easy solution. But I mean, is that really realistic?
No,
it isn't. So I don't see I don't see that big picture anymore. And I wish I did. You know, I looking back in retrospect now, do I think I made the wrong decision when I left? Absolutely not. It was time for me to go. And not because I thought I couldn't contribute anymore. It was just time for me to go. But looking back in retrospect, I do see where the writing was on the wall. I did see it, and fought. You know, I fought for quite a bit to try and keep it to how, you know, that what we think that core group of guys wanted, the Mount Rushmores. You know, we talked about, you know, maybe we were the ones that were lacking the vision. We didn't see what everybody else saw and see all of these directions. Maybe I'm just one directional. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a linear thinking. Locate, dominate, get with the operator, do what you're supposed to do. Find a guy, bite a guy, find a bomb, save people. That's it. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. I don't know, because I'm not there. And we're not there anymore. But look, you know, as we see it now, it's just gotten so complicated.
Yeah.
And it has gotten complicated. And the whole e-collar thing, that's just a small part of it.
For sure.
You know, we're not going to solve that problem. You know, 4 guys on the table, you know, talking shit. But I do think, you know, somebody needs to have a little bit of awareness and make a compass correction.
Well, I think that's what this conversation really should be steered towards. Where is that correction?
Yeah, I don't. You know, I don't know.
Or at least call out what is the problem.
You know, well, here's what I would love to say. Yeah, you know what? I can fix that. You can hire 3 people right now, and we'll fix it.
Yeah.
We will. Yeah. We'll fix it. I promise you that.
Well, you built it.
Yeah. Well, but you know, that's an easy answer. That's not a solution. You know,
But
that's
right now,
wishful thinking.
It's in the shitter, right? I mean, the program is in the shitter.
There was like when everyone all of a sudden went, hey, we need to find something else these dogs can do to make our jobs relevant or to make the dogs relevant.
Right.
Different concepts were introduced. And, hey, I think we can make this work. All right, find out everything you can about it and learn the training you need to do to make the dogs do it, and we'll see where it takes us. I was going, that seems stupid. You're asking the animal to do this, and it seems like a big piece of the pie that's pretty important to part of the pie of the mission. But the dog's an animal. They can mess that up, and everything's toast. Just as a dog guy, well, I was labeled as, well, you're not being innovative. Yeah, granted, but I think I see the writing on the wall. Yeah. Well, no, we're going to go ahead and pursue it, see what it does, see what comes of it. And it would go on. And they'd apply time, money, trainers to that particular capability. And they were always in the basic stages. Now it's 1 year. Now it's 2 years. Now it's 3 years. Now it's 4 years. Now it's 5 years. The dog's not doing it.
Right.
But like anyone else in that building that says, I have an idea, we could use it for what we do. All right, go figure it out. And it gets to like 1 year or 8 months or whatever. Hey, what do you got? Oh, nothing. We're still trying. Fucking move on to something else. You know, you can't. They're being innovative, but at the same time, they're being realistic.
Right.
And they're not putting forth any more effort into it. But to stay relevant, to stay at that organization, they continued on and on and on and on and on. And we used to laugh, like when they put the first rocket into space, you know, back in the 60s, to the time where they got to the moon. That was a shorter period of time.
Right.
You know, to be at the same spot with these dogs in stage one, money, people. Hey, we need help over here because we need to get this program. Well, I don't want to play with that. That seems retarded.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
We can use that word now. But that's what was, and it was the thing, the core reason the dogs were there will never be irrelevant. It's always going to be irrelevant to that or it's going to be relevant to that organization because it's a very cool things the dogs do.
Yep.
And it saves lives. and to say, well, no, let's come up with something new so we can all keep our jobs. That it was like a sickly feeling to hear that.
And that's the problem. I mean, that's what we're saying is the problem, because they keep changing the goalpost to something different where it's still the same goalpost. It's a simple job. Keep handlers safe, keep dogs safe, keep America safe, keep the military safe, to protect, fight for the operator. But then we're going to make the dogs spin in circles before they go do the bite. Or we're going to make them sit up and speak and sit pretty before they do you know what I mean? I mean, you're getting into crazy things, which it's nice if you can get the dog to do it, but is it relevant? And are people like you, getting punished, for nonsense when your core mission, like his and Shannon's, is the core mission, which is this is what it started out to be: keep everybody safe, protect the operator. That's it. Then you start, weeding all this other crap in, and then you suffer. You're at the result of lies and bullshit that was talked about you, right? So,
Yeah, I stepped forward and I chose to, after hearing complaints from very good soldiers, and in there, they don't want to rock the boat. They have a career to worry about, and so they would vent to me off to the side, right? And I understood that, but I kept hearing the complaints and seeing it with my own eyes. Weak dogs being concealed, aggressive dogs that were dangerous to the handlers, handlers being bit. I'm proud to say, my 20 years there, I never had a dog that bit a good guy. I didn't.
That's a good record.
There was a few that it was kind of the norm for them to be producing dogs that aggressed on the soldiers, which is a no-go for me. But there was a catalyst when Mike called me on a situation that I really wanted to step forward. And when I did, then the Retribution started. Would I change anything? I did, no. But it was harrowing to go through. You were my buddy. I would vent to you about it, and Mike and Shannon and other people. But if I had to do all over again, I would do it all over again. I would do it the way I did it.
I think all four of us kind of are those kind of people, right?
Yeah,
and it's the rarest kind of people where you're saying,
Yeah,
I did something, it hurt, but I would do it again.
And the
That's
perception
right.
could be, here's Steve, bitter old man. No, it's not like that. It's my heart is full. I love that organization. They're the best people in the world. Just, it's funny how one insect can damage so much grain. It just takes a couple of people to do do harm. But like I say, I stepped forward. It didn't pay off for me career-wise, but I wouldn't change it. I'd do it again.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. I mean, you spent 20 years there. You got a pretty damn good record.
Yeah. But
You know what I mean?
yeah. But I'm not bitter at all. I love those. I love the soldiers. That's why I was there. That's why we were all there. So my heart's full.
Good.
Just went
So
down,
what's the future? I mean, we got where are you heading?
Shannon and I are teaching dogs. We just did a detection dog course in Tucson, Arizona. We were with the California Highway Patrol yesterday. I'm still training dogs and having fun.
Yeah.
And that fun is the operative word.
Yeah.
I think it's actually pretty, for me, it's, and I think everybody sitting here, it's super satisfying when we go off and teach a seminar for when we were with Spec K9, which was Jimmy Hatch's foundation. And Jimmy was a Navy guy who handled a dog from a program that was basically started because of us. And like I said, Bill Eikenberry and the guys at the Navy, when they started their program, and Jim Haggerty, they did tremendous work, and they had their own. They started their own program and did their thing, and now they've got handlers that were doing the real thing on targets, getting shot, getting hurt, starting foundations, and again, it's really kind of cool for us coming back and being able to work and support that type of foundation. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, when it started, what it grew into.
And continues to.
And hopefully continues, absolutely. I would love to get out and work more, with Stoops and with Mike.
Yep.
And be able to, spread this type of thing that we were doing for the agencies that were, we've all been affiliated with. I'm still with Homeland Security, and hopefully that will happen. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Somebody else will want to work with us
for sure,
and we'll keep bringing the same ingenuity, the same intensity, the same really cool stuff, and the same amount of fun that we did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're doing this well, maybe not 20 years later, but 5 or 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
We're gonna be able to sit back and put a bunch of mics in our hands and say what a good time we had.
Yeah. And what great work you did.
Well, yeah,
Don't forget
that's
about that. Yeah.
that to me, that's just kind of like the icing.
Yep.
I mean, how fortunate I had an absolute blast.
Mm-hmm.
I had more fun, and it was so much. It was so interesting, and you know what? It did some pretty good stuff too.
Damn good stuff. Yeah.
Lucky to be there. Yeah, wouldn't change a thing.
You come to Add the Horse, www.addthehorse.com to get all your dog needs, your dogs, your training, your toys, your brake bars, your sleeves, your bite suits.
Your e-collars.
Your e-collars. Boy, do we got e-collars.
Clickers. Clickers?
Yeah, you get clickers.
You get clickers?
Yeah.
Does it have the Atlas
I like the
logo on
clicker.
it? No, I got no problem. My wife uses a clicker. I don't mind it.
I got no problem with the clicker.
Okay. Treats?
Yeah, you get treats too.
Okay,
Dog
good.
food,
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of Adler Horse,
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Mike Reaver and Adler Horse, their company motto is if you're not happy, you'll know it.
oh man. All right. Well, that was a hell of a chat.
Robert, you're a hell of a friend. Thank
Well,
you so much.
I love you guys.
We love you too.
You guys done a lot of great stuff, and I'm proud to be the guy you guys talk to.
Yeah.
Not those
Awesome.
other shitty podcasts.